Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X, __ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. 14:30 a.m. as well if you're in the Indianapolis area. It is Tuesday, which means Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts joins me in an hour. And big day today as we continue to talk about the Colts and their loss to the Rams on Sunday. The Major League Baseball wild card round starts today at 1 o'clock. Detroit going on the road to Cleveland. And then 3 o'clock, it officially begins. The Chicago Cubs begin their march toward winning another World Series title, their first one in 9 years. 2016, what a glorious, glorious year. Sophomore Jonathan Smith just having a blast watching his Cubbies hoist the World Series trophy. Anyway, can't wait for 3 o'clock. It's going to be awesome. But we're not talking a ton of Cubs today because this is Indianapolis. So Daniel Jones. I didn't talk about him hardly at all yesterday, which is weird for a Monday. Like last year, every Monday, we're talking about Anthony Richardson. And through the first 3 weeks, every Monday, I'm covering Daniel Jones. Do you know how bad things have to go for me to not talk about the Colts starting quarterback in depth on a Monday? That's how rough that performance was from the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. Adonai Mitchell making not one, but two huge mistakes that brought touchdowns took touchdowns off the board. 11 penalties from the Colts. Zaire Franklin dropping an interception. Javarius Ward dropping an interception. Bernard Raymond getting his face ran through consistently. Problematic. It was not a good day for the Indianapolis Colts. And Daniel Jones played his worst game of the year on Sunday. Turned the football over twice. Can't do that and win. And both interceptions were just not very good. But here is Colts head coach Shane Steichen on Daniel Jones' day.
I thought he played good. I mean, obviously the first one, we tried to take a shot there. I thought the safety made a good play on the ball. And then there at the end, obviously we're just trying to get chunks there at the end and try to throw a whole shot to Pitt. And the guy went up and made it, but I thought he was efficient throwing it.
Shane Steichen right there. Just protecting his quarterback. He wasn't going to get up there and say he sucked. I'm not going to say that either, to be fair. But he certainly wasn't very good. Shane Steichen said he was good. I just totally disagree. And what I'm about to say, this is not a victory lap. Preseason, I was very anti-Daniel Jones. And to his credit, through the first quarter of the season, Daniel Jones has done significantly more good things on the football field for the Indianapolis Colts than bad things. This is the first bad game that he's played all year. And guess what? He's going to play another one, not because he's bad or because he's going to regress or anything like that. It's because that's just how football works. Like Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the NFL, he's going to have like a couple clunkers because it's a 17-game season, and you're not going to play perfectly in all 17 games. And for the first time this season, Colts fans witnessed Daniel Jones not playing perfectly. He was perfect against the Dolphins, perfect against the Broncos, perfect on the road against the Titans, and then on the road in LA against that in front of that pitiful LA Rams crowd, he finally had a rough day. Both interceptions that he threw were bad, really bad. Should have thrown a third interception. He threw one on the Colts' second drive, and the interception was just dropped. The decision-making from Daniel Jones wasn't as crisp. And, last year, Anthony Richardson gave us the quote of a lifetime, talking about how running was his, quote, superpower. So if I had to tell you what Daniel Jones' superpower had been through those first 3 games, I would have said his ability to make decisions. That has been by far his biggest strength to start the year. It hasn't been the accuracy, which has been pretty good. He has just consistently picked the correct place to go with the football. And for the first time all year, on Sunday, he struggled to make the right decision. Those 2 interceptions, a large part of why the Colts lost that game. Here is Colts starting quarterback Daniel Jones on the 2 picks that he threw.
I mean, I think on the first one, just got to throw a better ball, get it out there for him, let him run into it. Second one, just a force, I think, at that point in the game. No need to force that. We got timeouts and time, I think, just understand that better.
The first one, would you want to throw it a little earlier and then obviously longer?
I thought I threw it. I thought the timing of it was fine. Just the ball location could have been better.
Daniel Jones breaking down his 2 interceptions on Sunday right there after the game. And that wasn't even everything. Like, yes, the 2 interceptions were bad. The first one, like, it was the right read. A.D. Mitchell had a ton of separation on the safety. Like a ton of separation. Lay it out towards the sideline. He catches it. Maybe he turns upfield and, and he picks up a nice little, like, 50-yard chunk, right? We all know that A.D. Mitchell can fly. Okay, he was advertised everywhere when the Colts decided to draft him. And, like, that's going to happen. Like, last year when I was doing the quarterback defense attorney for Anthony Richardson every week, one of my consistent defenses was, like, NFL quarterbacks miss throws sometimes. Like, it's going to happen. They're not going to put the ball right on the numbers every time that they throw the football. It's just not. It's not going to happen. Like, Daniel Jones is going to throw the football, like 400 times this year. I mean, like seriously. I mean, like, yeah, he's going to throw it maybe even 500 times. We'll see. And you're not putting the ball right where it has to be every single time. And that was just one of the throws where it didn't happen, and it resulted in an interception. And then the second one, he said it. Forced it, didn't need to. 3 timeouts. Jonathan Taylor wide open underneath. To be fair to him, maybe not the best play call going 4 verticals in that spot. Now, here's something else from Sunday that bothered me. Matthew Stafford had 4 carries for 4 yards on Sunday. 4 carries for 4 yards. And he ran for more yards than Daniel Jones did. That cannot happen. One of the nice parts of having Daniel Jones as your starting quarterback is his ability to scramble, right? No one's open, take off, pick up 4 yards, slide, and get us to 2nd and 6. Keep the Colts offense on schedule. He didn't do that at all on Sunday. And that had been a theme. We saw him scramble a little bit in that Denver game. He had the one amazing 17-yard scramble on the road against the Titans in week 3 where he busts out of a sack and then he takes off. It was awesome. He used his legs a little bit against Denver as well. He didn't use his legs at all on Sunday. It's a great way for him to bail himself out, and he just didn't do that at all. Matthew Stafford should never scramble for more yards in a game than Daniel Jones does. Right? So I want to see him get back to using his legs a little bit. And look, it's one game. I'm not the biggest X's and O's guys. Maybe, the Rams were doing something to keep him from doing that. But what I think happened was on the Colts' first drive of the game, Daniel Jones bootlegs out to the right. It looks like he has the corner, and then Byron Young runs him down. Trips him up. He loses a yard. No attempts to scramble after that. He stood in the pocket the rest of the time. And you can't let that one play deter you from doing something that has been valuable for the Colts. Because going from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6 is obviously significantly better than going from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 10. Speaking of going from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6, it didn't feel like that happened a ton. And then, the whole 1st and 10 to 1st and 10, which the Colts are great at, didn't really seem to happen either. It felt like a lot of the completions for the Colts were shorter than they had been. He hit Tyler Warren for a couple of nice chunk plays. He hit Michael Pittman Jr. for one. There was obviously the big play to A.D. Mitchell for 75 yards before the fumble. Like, aside from those 4 or 5 passes, it was a lot of checkdowns. Like, Jonathan Taylor had 5 receptions. That's a good thing. But I would also argue that that's too many because none of them were screens. It was all him just kind of out in the flat, Daniel Jones not finding anything and then flicking it out to him. That's too many. He has to push the football down the field. The best quarterbacks in the NFL have the ability to push the ball down the field. That's just the reality of it. Like Mahomes, especially this year, they've got some real speed. It's genuinely impressive. And when you look at the best quarterbacks in the NFL, like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and the rest of these guys, they push the ball down the field. And Daniel Jones had done such a good job of that the first 3 weeks of the season. His yards per attempt in every game was over 10. And it wasn't yesterday. It's the reality of it. He posted his lowest yards per attempt of the season on Sunday. And he also posted his lowest yards per completion. The explosiveness of the offense wasn't there like it had been. And that had been a very large part of the Colts and their offense, right? No big runs from Jonathan Taylor, no big passing plays from Daniel Jones. And, I was a broken record last year saying this. It is so much easier to score points when drives are 6 plays as opposed to 12. Because 12-play drives, that's 12 opportunities for someone to commit a false start or have a holding penalty. 6-play drive, there's only 6 chances for that. So the lack of explosiveness in the passing game, I thought was problematic. They have to get back to that at some point during the season. Josh Downs had 4 receptions. His longest reception was 8 yards. It's just not very aggressive. Okay, that in addition with Jonathan Taylor having 5 receptions, it's just not super great. Okay, Jonathan Taylor, 5 receptions for 20 yards. His longest reception was 10 yards. It's got to be more down the field than that. It has to be a little more aggressive than that. Okay, so I don't think that Daniel Jones was terrible, but a lot of the pieces of the passing game that had made this Colts offense one of the best in the NFL, they just weren't there. No explosiveness. They didn't stay on schedule as well as they had, and there were two really bad picks. 2 really bad picks. Okay, and the thing with Daniel Jones that I find frustrating was that second interception. Because you're going to throw picks, it's going to happen. But the best quarterbacks in the NFL don't throw that second interception. It's just the reality of it. And again, the calling for verticals in that spot, probably not a great call from Shane Steichen. Okay? But he has to make a better decision with that throw. There are many quarterbacks in the NFL where if you gave them a minute and 3 timeouts with a chance to tie the game with a touchdown, you feel like you left too much time on the clock for them. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, those 4 guys obviously immediately come to mind. Okay, a minute with 3 timeouts is too much time for Matthew Stafford. A minute with 3 timeouts is too much for Baker Mayfield. I would put Dak Prescott in that spot. I would put Jalen Hurts in that spot. Hey, that's at least 8 guys right there, and that's just off the top of my head. Sam Darnold did it on Thursday Night Football. Like that's too much time. And Daniel Jones had been trending toward making people feel that way about him. Like, oh man, a minute, 3 timeouts, too much time for Daniel Jones. He was trending in that direction of people kind of buying into him. And he had a chance to make that feeling absolutely permanent. Tomorrow, I'm going to do Over the Hump Day, where we talk about whether or not Daniel Jones has gotten over that hump or not. Spoiler alert, if he'd gone down the field and scored a touchdown there, win or lose, like he had 1,000% been over the hump. But instead, he decided to revert back to New York Giants Daniel Jones and made a bad decision. And I'm not going to say that it cost the Colts the game because there were many mistakes made by the Indianapolis Colts, but you have an opportunity to do what the best quarterbacks in the NFL do, and that's make up for everyone's mistakes. And he didn't. Here's the good news, though. If Daniel Jones performs somewhere in between how he looked in the first 3 games and how he looked Sunday, because the time between the first possession and the last possession, I thought he was good. Didn't think he was great, but I thought he was good, efficient. Wish that they'd been a little more aggressive, or he had been a little more aggressive pushing the football down the field. But if he performs somewhere between how he did in the first 3 games and how he looked on Sunday, then he's going to give the Colts the chance to win a lot of games. If he looks like that and the Colts can run the football, they're going to continue to have one of the 10 best offenses in the NFL. And this is a Colts defense that, while I don't love it, it has certainly been better than what it was last year. The one thing with Daniel Jones that has been, I think, his biggest thing, I talked about it earlier, is his decision making. And that is one very important thing for him and this Colts offense. I'll tell you what it is in 4 minutes.
dockets at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Going into that game on Sunday, by the way, for Daniel Jones, I was looking for the number during the segment, and I couldn't find it, but I found it during the break. He went into that game third in the NFL in yards per attempt at 8.9. Or no, he is third right now at 8.9. So just really, really impressive stuff from him to start the season. But there's one number that I think fully encapsulates why Daniel Jones has been as good as he's been to start the season. Because, there's no question about it that this is, even after that game on Sunday, this is the best start he's had to a season in his career. And I can't wait to talk to Zach Hicks about that coming up at 11. And there's this advanced stat. It's called success rate. And it's awesome. It passes the stat test, which is, are the best players at this position at the top of the list? And the answer is yes. And so success rate, it's basically a stat that answers the question of which quarterbacks do the best job of keeping their teams on schedule when a pass is called. Okay, so it asks, how often do you convert on third and fourth down? How often do you gain 40% of the first down yardage on first down? So if it's 1st and 10 and you gain 4 yards or more, then it's yes, and your percentage goes up. And then on second down, it's how much do you gain 60% of the first down yardage or more, right? So let's say, the Colts run the football, they gain 0 yards. So it's 2nd and 10, and then they throw it and they pick up 7 yards. Then that's obviously a yes, because that's over 60%. And then how often do you convert on third and fourth down? Once again, I like the stat because usually the best quarterbacks in the NFL sit at the top of the list. Daniel Jones is 2nd in the NFL right now, even after a rough game against the Rams. I thought he dropped, but he's still sitting at in second place. And his ability to keep the Colts on schedule has been so impressive. It has, and it keeps the Colts in all of the things that they do well. When it's 2nd and 6, you can turn around and hand the football off to Jonathan Taylor. It makes playing quarterback so much easier. That didn't happen against the Rams. Going into that game, the Colts' average yards to go on third down was 5.3. So they were having to go, 5 or 6 yards to pick up a first down on third down. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good place to be. All right, that was amongst the leaders in the NFL in terms of average yardage to go on third down. Against the Rams, however, 11.3. That was their average distance on third down. 3rd and 11 is what they ended up in on average. And it is really hard to win football games, and it is really hard to score more than 20 points when you're constantly stuck in 3rd and long. So it's why the Colts were only 4 of 12 on third down in that game, because every time they had a third down, it was 3rd and long. Daniel Jones has played really well this year, but there's only 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFL who could consistently convert 3rd and long enough to give their team a chance. It's the reality of it. Too many penalties, and that's what a lot of them were. It'd be like 2nd and 10, and then there'd be a hold, and then they'd have to throw it, and because the Rams know that the Colts have to throw it. Daniel Jones ends up having to throw a little check down, and then you look up and it's 3rd and 15. Or, it's 3rd and 5. And then there's like an illegal hands to the face, and you have to redo the down. And now it's 3rd and 20. So like even though I don't think Daniel Jones was great on Sunday, a lot of it was because his teammates holding, face mask, offensive pass interference on Tyler Warren in the red zone. When you're consistently in 3rd and long, unless you have Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, or Josh Allen, you're probably not getting bailed out of that. If you have Matthew Stafford as well, because he's an absolute stud. Daniel Jones has to play on schedule. He has to. Because when it's 3rd and 8, they're not biting on play action. It's not happening. But when it's 3rd and 2, and you can fake the handoff to, a guy who had been the best running back in the NFL to open the season, Jonathan Taylor, the defense has to respect that. And it makes everything easier on your quarterback. So going forward, the Colts have to do a better job of staying on schedule, unlike what they did on Sunday. Now, speaking of staying on schedule, the Colts obviously want to do a good job of keeping the opposing offenses off schedule. And Laiatu Latu should play a rather large role in that. And to his credit, for the first time, he played a large role in that. He was, I think, the biggest bright spot for the Colts on Sunday against the Rams. He was by far their best pass rusher. And he might have been their best defender, period. If you go by what PFF tracked, Laiatu Latu had 9 pressures, 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, and 6 hurries. I don't think you can ask for much more than that. That is really, really good stuff from the second-year player that everyone was kind of waiting on to kind of make this leap. And look, I'm not saying that he's made a leap, but he, generated a pressure on 1/5 of Matthew Stafford's snaps. It's a little easier against Stafford because he's not as mobile, right? If you're doing that to Bo Nix or whoever, then they flush the pocket, and then you have to deal with all that. Matthew Stafford, older guy, more of a statue, a little easier to impact him. So I am by no means saying that Laiatu Latu's made a leap and he's going to look like this for the rest of the year. But again, you can't ask more than that. The Rams have a good offensive line, and he lived in the backfield on Sunday. And every time the Rams threw the football, excluding the 2-minute drill, he seemed to find a way to create a pressure. And if he can continue to be impactful like that, then this Colts defense will obviously be much better because they need a premier pass rusher. I thought that Sunday, their pass rush was the best that it has looked all year. The best that it's looked all year. And a large part of that, or the biggest part of that, was Laiatu Latu. This was the first time in his very short career that I watched him play in a football game and say, yeah, that looks like a guy who deserved to be the first defensive player taken in the NFL draft like he was last year. Okay? So hopefully this is the start of something bigger. Hopefully this is the start of Laiatu Latu starting to look like a 10-sack guy this year. And that'll be huge because right now, every team just doubles DeForest Buckner. And you have to have someone else who can relieve some of that pressure. Maybe Laiatu Latu is going to be that guy. I also think that Adetomiwa Adebawore played a large part in that improved Colts pass rush. He needs to be on the field more, especially on passing downs. I don't think that Adebawore can defend the run, but that dude can rush the passer. He's got to be on the field in every 3rd and long spot going forward. I like Grover Stewart. Grover Stewart is a very important part of the Colts. He's a run stopper, and the Colts' run defense, not very good. Kyron Williams, 6 yards a carry on average on Sunday. But Grover Stewart's not a pass rusher. Adebawore is. When he was on the field, the Colts' pass rush was so much better. He had half a sack and 2 quarterback hits in very limited snaps. He has to be on the field more on third down going forward. By the way, side note here, I appreciated the Colts finally playing JT Tuimoloau. Samson Ebukam still played a pretty decent amount, but it was nice seeing JT Tuimoloau out there a little bit more. But the Colts pass rush, it's just been so lacking. Extremely lacking. Okay, they were 28th in the NFL in pressure rate going into that game against the Rams. And I'm sure that they're going to move up after it because they looked so much better. But to have the 5th worst pass rush in the NFL, like changes clearly need to be made, especially since this defense seems like it's predicated on stopping teams from throwing the football. Like the secondary is the strength of the defense. The run defense is not very good. So when teams throw the football on third down, like they have to ensure that they get a stop. It has to happen. So I appreciate the adjustments that we saw from the Colts on Sunday. A little more Adebawore, some JT Tuimoloau, and it felt like Leatu Latu was on the field every third down. And teams often have these like pass rushing packages, right? Where it's like, these are our 4 best pass rushers. We're going to throw them out there. And for the Colts, every passing down, every 3rd and 9 or more, and, the team isn't bleeding, the opposing team isn't bleeding the clock. These 4 guys need to be out there. Leatu Latu, DeForest Buckner, Adebawore, and Samson Ebukam, who I've been pretty tough on this year, but to his credit, he's got 5 quarterback hits through 4 games. That leads the Colts. So credit to him doing that. But those 4 guys have to be out there. It is hands down their best pass rushing lineup. Even though if you wanted to sub in Tyquan Lewis for Ebukam, then you could do that. But a large part of why they were in that game and why the Rams were only 4 of 12 on their third down conversions is because every time Matthew Stafford dropped back to throw the football, it seemed like there was a Colt bearing down on him. Okay, so that lineup, those 4 pass rushers need to be out there more on 3rd and 9 or more. I don't think it's a coincidence at all that is the best their pass rushers looked when they've played layout. I'm not surprised that's the best their pass rushers looked when they decided to play Leatu Latu and Adebawore a little bit more. That is no coincidence whatsoever. Those 2 guys need to be on the field every time they think that the opposition is throwing the football on third down. Like, it really elevated their ability on Sunday to get off the field. Like, to keep a Rams offense with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, Tyler Higbee, and quarterbacked by Matthew Stafford, to hold them to 4 of 12 converting on third down. Really impressive. Okay, the Colts were 21st in third down defense in the NFL entering that game. It's part of why they, struggled against the Broncos. They just couldn't seem to get off the field on third down. Sunday, we saw the pass rush get a nice little tweak, and it helped to lower that number. Zach Hicks, he's going to join the show at 11, and he's going to take a big victory lap on Adebawore because he's been pounding the table for him to play more really all year. So the Colts still have their issues, though. Questions at linebacker. Xavier Howard's an issue. I think that I have a potential solution for the Colts at corner. I'll tell you what it is in 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. Maybe you're listening on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM, no matter how you're listening. It is greatly appreciated as always. Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts joins the show here in about 20 minutes. Always love it when he comes on because he always gives just such good insight. So he's joining here in about 20 minutes or so. The Colts, I would say my phone number on the air, but I don't want everyone to have it. But Indianapolis Colts, you can email me, jonathan.smith@cumulus.com. And you can say, Jonathan, please meet us at our practice facility anytime after like 3:30. And I will gladly try out to play corner because Xavier Howard's not very good. Definitely not as good as he used to be. Grew up a Miami Dolphin fan. Big win last night. So grew up loving Xavier Howard. I remember when they took him in the second round out of Baylor. Back when I had no idea what I was talking about, I was like, he's going to be good because his name was Xavier. Okay? So I remember watching him in Miami and the Pro Bowl years and the year that he was first team All-Pro, and he had 10 picks that year, and he was awesome. And then I remember they went out and they added Jalen Ramsey. I was like, oh, Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard, watch out. Watch out. And then, Xavier Howard fell off a cliff. Like, he just doesn't have it anymore. And we've seen it for the last 3 weeks. He's got a huge target on his back when he's out there. It's like, hey, throw the football my way because I'm not going to make a play. It's just how it was. And, they last week or Sunday, the Colts kept lining him up on Puka Nacua. I'm sure there was some sort of reason for that. Would love to hear Lou Anarumo explain that one because like I said, I'm sure he has a legitimate reason for not switching the matchup at any point during the game, but he needs to be cut. Xavier Howard, he needs to be gone. But until Jalen Johnson comes back, Jones, excuse me. I think I called him Jalen Johnson all day yesterday too. Jeez, Jonathan, get it together. Until Jalen Jones comes back, it's just really tough, right, to not keep Xavier Howard on the roster because obviously if you cut him, then you don't have anyone else. So what I think the Colts should do is they should call Kendall Fuller. I saw someone recommend Stephon Gilmore yesterday. Stephon Gilmore's 34 years old. If this was the same Gus Bradley, we're going to play zone every down defense, then you could absolutely call Stephon Gilmore and bring him back. But because he's 34, he's not going to have the legs to run and cover like you have to in Lou Anarumo's defense. Like you have to be able to cover man-to-man because the Colts are going to blitz. It's going to happen. And zone blitzes don't really tend to work. So Stephon Gilmore just being too far past his prime, it's tough to bring him in. Asante Samuel Jr. was the first guy that I thought of that would be an awesome pickup. 25 years old, a real track record. The issue is he had a very serious neck injury last year, and he can't play until the second half of the year, and hopefully Jalen Jones will be back by that point. Okay? If he doesn't get picked up, because I'm assuming someone will pick him up, then maybe, he's a guy you bring in if Jalen Jones doesn't pan out the way that you want him to in this defense. Kendall Fuller's 30. So he's 2 years younger than Xavier Howard. And when they both came out of college, Kendall Fuller ran a 4.4 and Xavier Howard ran a 4.5. I'm willing to bet Kendall Fuller runs a little bit better than Xavier Howard does right now. And when you can't run, like turn and run with dudes, it just becomes so much tougher to play corner because now you have to be extremely wary of this guy can just run by me. Like that's why Tyreek Hill was so good for so long before he got hurt last night. It's like this guy's, if I'm not wary of this, then he's just going to run by me. And so Tyreek Hill builds up the speed. You're like, crap. And then he cuts and he runs a dig. And then he's wide open because you're so wary of getting beat deep. And if you're a slower corner, being asked to play man-to-man as often as the Colts do play man-to-man, like what's rule number one? Don't get beat over the top. And it just makes it tougher to cover. So I just wish the Colts would be able to go out and find a corner that can really run. Because Xavier Howard just doesn't run as well as he used to. It's the reality of it. But the Colts, they are making additions and some changes. They went out and they signed a linebacker, Buddy Johnson, off the Cowboys practice squad. I don't know anything about Buddy Johnson. Just being completely honest with you. I just know that they signed him. It was either today or yesterday. And it just continues to prove how desperate they are to find a linebacker. I mean, seriously, like the We Like Our Guys position group of the year, shout out to Chris Ballard, is signing another guy, just hoping that literally anybody can stick. So Buddy Johnson was a 4th-round draft pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was there in 2021. He played in 4 games, and then he hasn't played for the Pittsburgh Steelers since. Didn't play in the year 2022. I don't know if he got hurt. I don't know if he got cut and spent the whole year on a practice squad. I don't know. 2023, he appeared in 2 games for the Cowboys. 2014, he played in 14 games, but it looks like he was just a special teams dude. And then this year, he's appeared in 1 game for the Dallas Cowboys. They are so incredibly desperate to find anyone to play linebacker. I mean, like they are so incredibly desperate. And it shows. Like this run defense is terrible because the linebackers just aren't very good. And DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart can only do so much. And it's just frustrating. It's so frustrating watching something that everyone knew was going to happen. Everyone knew that the linebackers were going to be bad this year, with the exception of Zaire Franklin. He's actually been pretty okay to start the season, but like it still baffles me how, Chris Ballard, who knows more about football personnel than I do, it just baffles me how I can sit here in this studio, look at this roster, and be like, yeah, that's going to be problematic. Seriously. Like, you're just sitting in here all offseason. That linebacking group gonna be problematic. And it's like, nah, we're gonna be fine. We got Joe Bocci and Zaire Franklin. Like you have to get more than that. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. But oh man, Chris Ballard upsets me. You know what doesn't upset me though? Playoff baseball starts at 1:00 today, and I am obviously going to be pulling for the Chicago Cubs because I grew up a Cubs fan, and Matthew Boyd really needs to have a nice day today. I hate that they're playing at 3:00 every day. I despise it. Like, put them on at night. I get it. You got Boston, New York, but I think people would rather see the Padres and the Cubs than, no offense, the Reds and the Dodgers. Also, before the year started, who would have thought that the NL Central was going to have three teams in the playoffs? Certainly not me, even though I am excited to watch Hunter Green take on Blake Snell tonight. That is going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I am obviously pulling for the Chicago Cubs to win the World Series. Okay, 2016. It is ingrained in my memory. I will never forget the year. I'll never forget looking at my buddy Ryan Mallison and saying the Cubs are going to win the World Series, and him looking at me and saying, "Oh, so you're the kind of guy that, like, as soon as this team's kind of good, you just think that they're going to win the title." And I was like, "No, I just think that the Cubs are awesome." And they were that year, and they ended up winning the whole thing, and it was like a real sense of pride. That I'll never forget that season. My brother and I, we ordered a Chicago Cubs W flag. And that whole year, we'd wake up in the morning and we would check to see, if we didn't watch, we would check to see, did the Cubs win last night? And if they did, we would walk outside and we would hang it up. We did it every day through the entire season. And I'll never forget, they win the World Series, Game 7, down 3-1, win 3 games in a row. Corey Kluber on the mound for Game 7, their third time seeing him in that series, and Dexter Fowler comes up, first at-bat of the game, and takes him dead center. And there's just this moment of like, oh, they're going to win the World Series. And then Kyle Hendricks throws an absolute gem. And then John Madden pulled him, shouldn't have. Brings in John Lester. You know, Ross is behind the plate. He falls over. Ball gets away. You know, and then things kind of slowly start to unravel. And it's like, oh, the Cubs are going to do that Cubs thing again that they just seem to always do. And then, you know, Rajah Davis comes up, chokes up like 7 inches on the bat. Like, his hands are like almost on the barrel. And it pays off because he gets to an inside fastball thrown by Aroldis Chapman, and he hits a grand slam, and he ties it. And I just remember my heart sinking. And then the good Lord sent rain. He was like, the Cubs were able to go into the locker room. Jason Hayward stands up, says, "Hey, guys, we're the freaking Chicago Cubs. We're the best team in baseball." And they come out after the delay. We get extra innings, and they end up finding a way to win. Tyler Montgomery comes in out of the pen, and he, you know, to hear him tell the story of how he couldn't throw a strike, he was so nervous. But as soon as the game started, he's just, you know, putting the ball over the plate. They hit a little dribbler, Chris Bryant to Rizzo, and the Cubs win the World Series. I'll never forget it, and I want that feeling so badly again. And if they don't win it, because let's be honest, they're probably not going to. The Blue Jays are really good. Okay, the Guardians have been on a tear. I know that the Tigers had the collapse of a lifetime, but like, there's several teams just better than the Cubs in this playoff run. The Dodgers are still the most talented team, but if the Cubs can't win it, I want the Phillies to. I want Bryce Harper to win a World Series so badly, because when he came up, he was everything people didn't like about baseball. And then he grew up, and he's still intense, and he's still fiery. He's just matured. And now he's incredibly likable. He's been one of the best players in baseball for quite some time. And I would just love it if the Cubs can't win the World Series. Then I would absolutely love it if the Philadelphia Phillies could. Zach Hicks is going to join the show here in about 4.5 minutes to continue the conversation around the Indianapolis Colts and their first loss of the season on Sunday. Zach Hicks, the Locked On Colts, joins in 4 minutes.
Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome to the Real Jonathan Smith Show, hour number 2. Getting underway here. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there. And watch the show there, Indy Sports Ticket app as well, and 1430 AM. The Real Jonathan Smith Show today is sponsored by Holiday World and Splash and Safari. They do the holidays right. They are celebrating Halloween, and it's awesome. They've got really cool drone shows, and it's themed, and it's a lot of fun. So get down to Holiday World and make some memories with the rest of your family. I am now joined by the one and only Zach Hicks of Locked on Colts. He's also got the Zach Hicks YouTube channel. He's an excellent writer as well. You can follow him on X at Zach Hicks2. What's going on, man? How are you?
It's been good, man. All things considered, first loss of the season this past weekend, but outside of a couple major gaffes that the team had that cost them from winning, I'm not too upset about it. You can't win them all, unfortunately. It would have been fun if they could have, but you got to come back down to earth a little bit, and I feel like they came back down to earth just a tad this weekend.
I agree. Like, I was kind of waiting on the game where they turn the football over, and because when you don't turn it over through 3 games, at some point you're just kind of due for it. I do want to talk about those things, Zach, but I feel like the show has developed this reputation of I'm like the butt guy. Like when the Colts win, I'm like, yeah, they won, but they didn't do these things very well. And then people are like, Jonathan, can we be positive they won? And then when they lose, I'm like, yeah, they lost, but they did all these things well. And then people are annoyed because I'm happy. It's really backwards. So I would like to start with just giving you an opportunity to take a victory lap on your Adebawore take, because the Colts were bad, but Adebawore, you noticed when he was on the field.
Yeah, he was great on Sunday. Adetomiwa Adebawore, he really made an impact as a pass rusher. I think it was, I would say, honestly, the best game of his entire career on Sunday. He got 19 defensive snaps, which was 20-25% of the defensive snaps. He got a good run stuff in there that unfortunately got negated due to a penalty, but had a couple good pressures in there, a QB hit, a sack that he shared with Nick Cross. So, yeah, I thought he looked great. You could really see the swim move coming along, which was really nice to see. You could he looked like DeForest Buckner on a couple of those rushes because he had the long white sleeves just like Buckner as well. Yeah. But he's a guy who, when the Colts drafted him in the 4th round a couple years ago, he was just all trades. He just had nothing that he really knew what to do as a pass rusher. He played a lot of this 5-tech defensive end in college, and it was really just explode off the ball and wait there. So when he got to the NFL, he was such a raw prospect, and I've just been waiting and waiting for it to finally click for him. Just for him to finally click where he adds stuff to his toolbox and he develops a go-to move as a pass rusher. And I still think there's areas that he can get better as a player. For the year, his pass rush win rate's still only 10%, which isn't horrible, but it's not amazing either. I still think there's another gear he could hit as a pass rusher, but I think he's starting to turn that corner. He's starting to go from a player who is a fringe healthy scratch to 5 snaps a game type of guy to now, for me, especially in a game where you're going against a pass heavy opponent, I want him out there for 40% of the snaps or so. And I think it would have been like that if this was more of a situation where the Colts were leading more in this game and they weren't going against a team like the Rams, who Rams trot out there 12 personnel and more heavy personnel sets because they want to run the ball on early downs. So it does make it a little bit harder to put Adebawore out there. But yeah, I thought he was really turning a corner so far this year. And then it really came to a head this weekend. And when you have the pass rush room the Colts have, where you're kind of relying so heavily on 2 players, you really need a 3rd guy to step up. For me, I think the easy choice going forward is when you go to these obvious passing situations, those NASCAR personnel sets that we used to call it under Gus Bradley, I'd rather have Adebawore out there rushing from the 3-tech position than have Tyquan Lewis. And I think eventually the Colts are going to get there. They're going to slowly get that way. But yeah, this is a great step forward for Adebawore. He's finally got something in his toolbox with that swim move and a little bit of the under move. And he's finally starting to put it together as a pass rusher that the Colts drafted fairly high a couple years ago.
4th round pick, yeah, joined by Zach Hicks of Locked on Colts, talking about just one of the bright spots for the Colts on Sunday, him waxing poetic right there about Adebawore. So I thought he played really well. This was the first time I watched Leatu Latu, and I was like, this guy actually looks like a 1st-round pick. What was different about his game? Because, like, I know part of the knock on him has been, like, the pressures and the advanced stats are there, but he's just not finishing the play with a sack. But, like, I think he set a career high in quarterback hits and pressures on Sunday. What was different about him?
Yeah, and I think the one thing to really make note of, too, is that this wasn't a situation where, like, he was getting to the quarterback and missing the sack and the quarterback was getting out of the pocket. Stafford was just throwing the ball quickly in this game. You know, Stafford had, I think, a 2.6 second time to throw from snap to throw in this game, which is actually slower than his typical game, but still pretty fast. Like, I think it was like top 10 for the week or top 5 for the week even. He gets that ball out lightning quick. And that was really why Leatu Latu didn't have more sacks in this game. Like, this could have been a 4 or 5 sack game with how dominant he was playing. So yeah, I thought it was his best game of his entire career. He looked just dominant in all phases. And I think the big part of that was because he looked decisive as a pass rusher, probably for the first time again that I've seen him, where he knew how to combat what was going on. He was winning quickly with his rushes. He looked explosive off of the snap. Anytime they try to jump set him, it was a disaster for Rob Havenstein there at right tackle because it just got Latu, like his whole process sped up and he was just quick to disengage. And I thought he turned the corner pretty well and got to the quarterback. So yeah, I'm with you. I thought this was like the first time in his career where I watched him and I was like, okay, now I see it. I can find, like, this looks like college Leatu Latu. This doesn't look like an athletically limited player. This looks like a guy who knows what he's doing and he's getting to the quarterback. And it's finally lining up with what those advanced stats told us in those first couple games. So hopefully he carries us forward in a big matchup this week where Colton Miller's out. I would honestly put him over the left tackle now if Colton Miller's out for the Raiders, just so he can get that matchup against the backup again and let him go to work on the backside of the quarterback. But yeah, if he's going to play like this, then yeah, certainly this Colts pass rush is going to be better. I thought the Colts pass rush overall was pretty darn good on Sunday.
It was. I had a take earlier in the show, and I'd like your thoughts on it. I feel like every third, and they're obviously going to throw it, the Colts should run out Latu, Buckner, Adebawore. And I was looking at the numbers, and I was very surprised when I saw this. Abukum leads the Colts in quarterback hits with 5. The next closest guy has 2. So I feel like by that stat alone, like you got to put him on the other side. Like if you had to, arrange like a strictly pass rush only defensive line for the Colts, like who would the 4 guys be?
Yeah, that's probably the 4. It would depend on what my rush call would be. Like if I just need a guy who's going to contain the pocket on that backside, I'd probably go with Lewis or Pay rather than Abukum. But if I'm going to do some stunting or some twisting, which is where a lot of Abukum's QB hits have been on stunts, twists, or blitzes, where he's been left free or he's been able to get past a tight end and hit the quarterback, I'd probably rather have him out there. But yeah, I think for sure the 3 that need to be out there on most rush snaps are Latu, Buck, and Adebawore. Those are the 3 guys where it's like they're just too explosive, too athletic, and they just have the ability to disengage from blockers at a higher level than anybody else on this team rushing the passer. So those would be the 3 that I would have out there more often than not. It would just be like mixing and matching the 4th guy, depending on what kind of rush plan I want to have.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked on Colts. He's also got a YouTube channel as well. Just search for Zach Hicks. You can follow him on X at Zach Hicks 2. All right, man. Let's get this AD Mitchell stuff over with. I feel like it's all I've talked about. Just your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, man, that it's everything with him is always 1 step forward, 2 steps back. It can never just be a positive showing or a positive moment or a positive game for him. It's always like every single thing has to be followed up with but he also did this. Even his big game against the Bills last year, he was like an inch away from losing a fumble in that game as well, that people forget. And that was probably his like most consistent performance of his career. But yeah, it's always like, it's like right there it's on the cusp that like of just figuring it out, but he can just never get over that final hurdle to be like a legit NFL wide receiver. So now when Alec Pierce is back, either this week or next week, he's going to be relegated back down to his little sub role and being like that 5, 6, 7 snap a game guy again, because you just can't trust him in anything more than that. And I think, I hate saying this because it comes off so like different than how I want it to be, but I didn't love the look of like everything after the drop at the goal line, like the pacing around behind the huddle and the letting it like really like linger with him on the sideline and stuff. And then it obviously accumulating in a penalty late in the game as well that took another touchdown off the board. It feels like he was just really in his head the rest of the game. And it's not like it's like an immature thing, but it's kind of immature in the sense where it's like, this is your job, man. You're a professional. You got to be able to shake these things off and get to that next play. I mean, look at the tear that Jonathan Taylor's been on since he dropped the ball at the goal line. He's been the best running back in the NFL over the past 10 games, ever since he dropped that ball and stuff. So it's all about what you do after these terrible moments. And I think the way that he followed up the rest of the game was not what you want to see from like a professional player following up a monumental mistake. But, he still had, luckily for him, he's a former second-round pick. So he's going to get more chances to rectify this mistake. If he was an undrafted free agent or a veteran player, he would not get another chance after something like that. He would just be gone. But because they've invested in him, he's going to get more chances to earn trust back. And he's just got to do a lot of things right going forward. But, it's just frustrating, though, because he's got all the talent in the world, but we're 21 games into this NFL experience with him, and he still has not yet gotten over that hurdle of just turning the corner. And for some guys, it happens later than others, but some guys it just doesn't happen at all either. So it's really hard to really dissect this and talk about it, but just a brutal showing on Sunday. 2 touchdowns taken off the board. One of them when he made the play of the season for the Colts that could have, had them on their way to steal a game against the Rams on the road when they were the more injured team. Like, this should have been AD's like shining, like coming out moment, and it ended up being the biggest disaster of his career. And it just sucks, man. It's like the most like heartbreaking thing in football, but the biggest thing he can do now going forward is just own it, move on, be a professional day in and day out, do all the little things right, run a million miles per hour on every single rep, no matter if you're getting the ball or not, and earn back that trust of the fans and the coaches. But it's going to be tough, man. Like, Jonathan Taylor still hasn't lived down him dropping the ball at the 1-yard line. He's been, like I said, the best running back in football since then. It's tough to get over something like that, especially when fans and I don't know if the coaches think it, but like fans think that you lost them a game in the NFL. Every game matters. And to lose 14 points because of some dumb boneheaded plays, it hurts, man. It hurts. It's going to be tough for him to win back the coaching staff and this fan base after something like that.
It is, especially if like we get to the end of the season and, let's say they win the division, but they're a 4 seed instead of a 3 seed because of one game or whatever it is. Like you said, every game matters. Joined by Zach Hicks of Lockdown Colts talking about A.D. Mitchell's mistakes. Yeah, I think you're just the biggest thing for me after it happened was like the people calling for him to be cut. I was like, no, like, did you see the first like 74 yards of that play? Like, just incredible. Yeah. And I really like what you said because I think it's so true. Like, every time he takes a step forward, there's 2 steps back. There's 2 steps back. Like, he just can't seem to cross the goal line, Yeah. I'm sorry. That was just right
figuratively and literally. No, like both though. Like, you're 100% on that because for every wide open play he had last year, a big time catch down the sideline, it would be a timely drop on a 3rd down, or it would be a near fumble or a missed block or a penalty. And it's like, man, like, when is it ever going to click for this guy? And he's still 22 years old. So you don't want to just throw it out on, but on the other hand, this is the not for long league, man. That's what the NFL stands for, not for long. And the Colts just made the big decision to bench their 4th overall pick quarterback for Daniel Jones going into the season. If that doesn't show you right there that it's not for long, I don't know what else will. So, like, you give the guy some grace here and some time to maybe figure this out, but you don't get that much longer, because at the end of the season, the Colts are going to have to decide whether or not they're going to pay Alec Pierce. And if they do pay Alec Pierce, A.D. Mitchell doesn't have a role in this team going forward, unless they like cut Michael Pittman Jr., which the way he's playing this year, you absolutely don't do that.
Yeah, no.
Especially for Mitchell, who's, the way he's played this year. So, this was kind of Mitchell's like big audition to show that like he can replace Pierce after the season. And like he fumbled it short of the goal line. Like he fumbled his chance basically. Like it sucks so much for him. Like this is like, football is such a heartbreaking sport, honestly, because like everyone else is like mad about this, but for me, I'm like, I feel so bad for the player, because it's like, just, it's not like he purposely fumbled. It's just he made a huge mistake, and he's got to live with that.
He does, and that was my thing. Like when he fumbled, I was like when the game was over, my first thought was like, they're going to extend Pierce, just because you can't trust the guy. And like, you really want to, because he's super talented. But you've mentioned how this is, the NFL is not for long. And you mentioned how, like, if he was a veteran or a guy who wasn't a second round pick, then like he probably would be at least in danger of being cut. So with all that in mind, like, what's up with Xavier Howard still being on this football team? Because these last 3 weeks has been brutal.
Yeah, I mean, look, part of me wants to be like, put any team in the situation the Colts are in at corner, where like they're down to like their corner, like a guy who, like, they're down to guys who weren't on the roster coming into training camp, playing outside corner right now for them, because Brent's had a bad offseason. Womack had a really bad offseason. Jones got hurt. Wally got hurt. So this seemingly like strength of the team, which are Various Ward coming in here and all these guys coming back and Wally coming in here looking like a stud. It looked like it was going to be the strongest unit of the entire team, is now has like the biggest gaping hole on the defense because of Xavier Howard. And I'm with most of the fans where it's like, look, putting Blackman out there and putting Jonathan Edwards out there, even if it's just as bad, at least they're going to be making mistakes at 100 miles per hour because they're young and they're like going to give a crap, where Howard was looking slow and not really into it for most of that game on Sunday. But the Colts are in a bad spot with that cornerback 2 position. And it's just, I'm way more passionate about cutting or benching Xavier Howard than I am about A.D. Mitchell right now, because I'm more upset that he's getting reps. Because at least with Mitchell, like, he's making dumb mistakes, but like he's making that at 100 miles per hour, and he's making like good plays on top of it and stuff. With Howard, like, it looks so lackadaisical out there and just like uninterested, and the play is just terrible, like in all facets. Like Jay kept saying on the show yesterday, it's like, oh yeah, they would motion Puka to give Puka like a running start and get him running across the field, and that's how they were beating Howard. And I'm like, but the thing is, they're beating him in every other way too. Like, it's not just that. It's every single way you want him beat. He can't really keep up with these guys, and he's not making any plays on the ball. He's not really doing anything. And it's like, I don't know how much longer you can go with this experiment here. Like, I understand to a degree where it's like he's got to ramp up. He was on the couch all off season and yada yada yada. But like, again, you can't just like cost games for yourself here until that happens. Like the NFL, you got to win as much as possible here to make the playoffs. Every game matters. So you can't just be throwing games to get this guy up to speed just to see if he potentially still has something left in the tank. So yeah, as you could tell, I'm with everybody here. Like, I do not want him touching the field anymore. At least not on passing downs. Like, sure, you can have him out there for run defense or something, but on passing downs, he should not be on that backside. Heck, we saw there was like one third down play where he was off the field and Blackman was playing outside corner on Puka, and he tackled Puka a yard short of the sticks. And I'm like, perfect. There we go.
More of that, please.
I don't even care if I don't care if he catches it. Just keep him contained a little bit here. And it's, it was just annoying, but yeah, I don't think, I thought Lou Anarumo had some good game plans early in the season. I think he did a lot of things right on Sunday. But the 2 areas that they really got killed on defense were hurry up offense, and then whenever Xavier Howard was targeted, like, those were the things. And to a lot of people's point, like, you put Ward on Puka, then Howard's just going to be on Adams. And I get it. Like, Adams is pretty good too, but Puka's the best receiver in football to start this season. Like, at least when he has like 130 yards, then you say, okay, you know what? Let's get Ward on him for a couple snaps here or there, which I think they did a little bit in the second half. But yeah, it was just frustrating to see, because it was something I was screaming about on this show, on my show, on all the shows I went on last week, where it's like, get Ward on Puka, because if you don't, Puka's going to go crazy. Like, I want him limited. And he goes off for 170 yards, and it was so obvious that was going to happen against Xavier Howard.
It was, and I like when they started it, I was like, oh, they're gonna do like the Belichick versus the Colts thing, where they put their best their best corner on Reggie Wayne, and then they double Marvin Harrison. And I don't know if that's what they were trying to do or not, but it clearly didn't work. Just brutal. The Lou Anarumo stuff. Here's, like, everyone's very much locked into the Xavier Howard and AD Mitchell stuff. And what I'm about to say, it may not be fair. And if it's not, please say so. Once again, joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts. I thought one of the differences in the game was when Cam Curl, the safety for the Rams, when he had an opportunity to pick Daniel Jones off twice, he did. For the Colts, Zaire Franklin dropped a pick on the first possession of the first half, and Charvarius Ward dropped one on the first possession of the second half. Like that is something that I think is not being discussed enough.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's a huge difference in a lot of NFL games. We can also factor in there was like 3 Stafford balls that got like knocked up in the air on lots of pressures, where the ball bounced up in the air and just nobody happened to be there. There was one early in the game where Stafford tried to take a deep shot to Nakua, which he had toasted Xavier Howard on the outside, by the way. But Latu hit him as he threw it, and the ball was underthrown by like 15 yards, and it barely went over Nick Cross's head, who was in the middle zone there underneath it. And it's just, it's little plays like that I think are the huge difference makers in games. I mean, that's why we always say the turnover battle is so big in NFL games, because it just swings momentum and it swings field position and changes so much of the dynamic of games. So yeah, like those are big moments. I thought like Lou Anarumo, did a decent job on Sunday. I think people get a little too crazed with going hot and cold on stuff. I really think the plan of attack was solid for a majority of the day. I mean, again, outside of hurry up situations and then Blackman falling down on a coverage call, which they should have had 11 on the field. They should have called timeout. But even if they didn't have the 11 on the field there, it was a long touchdown because Blackman fell down. So if Blackman doesn't fall, I mean, all their points came on no huddle and on that one fluky play. Outside of that, they held them to 6 points throughout the whole game. And I know you can't just look at games in a vacuum like that. So I'm not trying to say that like the defense was great, but I think overall they were fine on the day. And I think that's the best you can kind of hope for right now with a defense that is playing a corpse at cornerback 2 and then just has no clue what they're doing at linebacker 2. I mean, they've trotted out every guy on the roster besides Zaire Franklin, just trying to see if any of these guys are just going to get it and be an impact player. And clearly they signed a dude off the Cowboys practice squad today to the roster. So they're going to keep trying to throw more bodies at that problem until someone works. So I think with the holes they had on this defense, I still think it was a fine game from that side of the ball. I mean, heck, if the Colts offense gave them a little bit more help throughout the game, I think this looks like a better showing for them. So yeah, I think it was fine for them. They just got to figure out their couple issues in terms of like solidifying run defense a little bit, figuring out whatever the heck is going on at cornerback 2, and then just having somebody step up at that other linebacker spot. But I think they're figuring out the pass rush a little bit. I think the overall coverage scheme is good. I think the disguise is great. I mean, that near Zaire Franklin interception was a beautiful defensive call. Like, it was so close to being a game-changing play to start the game on a play where he just tricked a veteran quarterback of like 20 years to throw the ball right at the linebacker. So like it's stuff like that. Like I feel so much higher about this defense right now than I did about any of the Gus Bradley defenses, especially when you consider that this is still the first month of this system being implemented. So I think by like November, December, they'll solidify themselves as like a top 15, 16, 17 defense. And that'll be good enough as long as the offense stays in like the top 10 range.
Joined by Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, talking about the Colts and their loss to the Rams on Sunday. I feel really good. I'm baffled that the Rams didn't run. I'm baffled that the Rams threw the football 41 times when Kyron Williams was averaging 6 yards a carry. But hey, man, like that's partially just how the NFL is now. I do want to talk about the offense before I let you go. Just thoughts on Daniel Jones's performance.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think if this is kind of what, like the low end of what we're going to get from him, I don't think he really reverted back to like Giants Daniel Jones. I thought there were a lot of big time throws he made under pressure that helped move the offense forward. I just think overall he's a limited quarterback. So you're not going to see him will the team to victory when they're the team that shouldn't win. And I know the Colts made several mistakes where you could say they should have won in this game, but typically if you lose the turnover battle and you get outgained like the Colts did in the game, typically you're not the better team in that game. Like if they would have won, it would have been because of A.D. Mitchell making like a fluky superstar play. And then whatever happened on that fumble in the backfield for the Rams, where Williams just dropped the ball. But I digress. I'm not going to go into that too much. But the Rams controlled the play for most of that game. And Jones is not the type of quarterback that's going to steal you victories in there. He's not this big arm superstar quarterback that can create out of structure and chuck the ball 70 yards to a wide open receiver down the field. You know, he's a guy that needs to play in control. Typically, if you give him a lead for most of the game, he can keep that lead and keep the offense moving forward and keep adding like 3s and 7s to the board to push that lead up. But he's not really built to be a guy who's going to drag you back from behind. All that being said, though, I thought he performed well under pressure, which is something, again, we never really saw him do with the Giants. I thought he had a fantastic drive to give the Colts the lead early in the fourth quarter. And I thought, honestly, his throw to Warren after the fumble arguably was going to put that game away. Should have been a two-score game, a two-score game with like 6 minutes left. But the refs had to insert their bad calls there
brutal
on that OPI. But again, I'm not going to talk about that too much. I thought overall it was a fine game from Daniel Jones. So like if this is the low points we're going to get from him, I think this Colts team is going to be in good shape and make the playoffs this year. The deep ball is a concern though, and it was a concern the first 3 games. He just didn't get picked off at all. But that deep ball is certainly a concern. So I don't know if the Colts need to just chill out a little bit with like how they call those, or just say like only if the dude's wide open, Daniel throw it, because you don't have the arm right now to get it there, because he's thrown some lame ducks up there down the field to start this season. But aside from the deep ball issues, I think most of the stuff he did on Sunday was pretty good.
Yeah, the first deep ball was just inaccurate. Like A.D. Mitchell was open.
It was just a duck.
He just left it short and 5 yards to the left. The second one, he was just, I thought he forced it. It's like, not a great play call going 4 verts there. Like we have 3 timeouts, Shane. Like we can slow down a little bit.
Shane loves 4 verts, man. He loves 4 verts. He did that in the preseason like 4 times. Daniel Jones too, and I'm like, this is not the quarterback to run 4 verts with. You're not going to get anything positive out of this.
Yeah, I thought that the biggest thing Sunday though, like I don't know if you're a success rate guy. I am. I love the stat. Because usually it shows the best quarterbacks in the league, even though Justin Fields is 3rd in success rate, which is bizarre. Once again, Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts joining the show. And the thing that I like about it is it points to the quarterbacks who do the best job of keeping their team on schedule. And that had kind of been the Daniel Jones, superpower, I guess, to start the season. And the issue was we'd be on schedule, and then there'd be a hold or some sort of penalty would negate whatever they were doing, which was just really frustrating. Like, but aside from those the 2 picks, I did think that he looked good. Last thing for you, and I will let you go. I like Shane Steichen. I feel like I've been defending Shane Steichen the last 3 years. Okay, I will say, I do find it unacceptable that Jonathan Taylor only got 6 touches in the first half. Like I get it, they were up 10-6, but I wish that he'd been a little more involved early.
Yeah, I get it, and I know we had these conversations a couple times a year with Jonathan Taylor, and it's been a thing quite a few times in Steichen's era. But at the end of the day, Steichen's been very open about what his philosophy is. And he calls it pass to score and run to win. But realistically, what it is, because you have the threat of Jonathan Taylor, it's pass to soften up the defense and then run when the defense is worried about the pass. So a lot of his philosophy is we're going to throw the ball a lot early to get you worried about the throw. And as we saw the first 3 games, I mean, Jones was throwing for nearly 200 yards the first 3 games. He was just dicing defenses up because defenses come into these games saying, we're going to stack the box and we're going to take away Jonathan Taylor. So what Steichen's done this year is come out in heavier personnel sets, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, and thrown out of them. And Jones has had a lot of success. Now, the reason they didn't have success on Sunday doing that is because their offensive line was getting their butt kicked all game long because the Rams D-line is nasty. They were on the road, so they were getting these pre-snap penalties and getting back into obvious pass situations. And then I think somewhere in like the second or third quarter, the Rams really figured out the Colts silent count snap, and they were jumping snaps, and the Colts O-line just had no chance from there to block anything. So they were just getting killed up front. But to go back again to Shane Steichen's philosophy, again, a lot of it is throw to set up the run. So when we look at Taylor, even in these first 3 weeks where he's been fantastic, he's had like 7, 8, 9, 10 touches each first half. And then the second half, it's like a 15-touch explosion, 15 for like almost 100 yards in the second half of games, because that's just his overall philosophy. So I understand people being upset about it, like especially when the results aren't there, throwing the ball early, like why not get to the run? But it's just the way that has worked for him with the Colts, and it's the way it's worked for him with the Eagles back then too, and just even this season in general, going back to those first 3 games. So as someone who has like Jonathan Taylor in fantasy football, like trust me, I get frustrated in those first half of games as well. But usually it opens up more in the second half. And honestly, it almost did because he had the long touchdown run in the second half. So we would be looking at this being like, yeah, Taylor would have finished the game with 20-something touches and over 100 yards yet again. But because the results aren't there, we hyper-focus on it a little bit more. But yeah, their whole game plan kind of got thrown back for a loop because of the pre-snap penalties, pushing them back, the Rams D-line just being all over the place. And then, again, once they figured out that silent count, they were cooked. I'm shocked that they were able to put that drive together in the second half, take the lead with how the Rams defense was flying around. That was actually a really impressive drive by the Colts to take that lead because their whole offensive system got thrown for a loop early in this one.
All right, Zach Hicks. Okay, I had to ask because you brought up the snap count thing. Is that why Bernard Raymond struggled as much as he did?
So actually, I think Ryman was probably the best one on the O-line on Sunday. And I know there were a couple snaps that made it seem like he was getting crushed, but I thought the rest of the O-line was much worse.
Okay.
Honestly. Like the notable, like the strip sack late, right? Like that's one of the big standout plays where it's like Ryman got beat by Verse, but he got left out to dry by his running back. His running back should have been helping him on the outside.
Yeah, DJ Giddens. So, I remember that snap. Yeah. It's like, where are you going, man? Yeah. There's no one in the C gap. How about we
right?
How about we slide over?
Right. So when Verse is lining up the snap count, getting that extra jump on you, already kind of winning the edge, and then you're expecting a chip. So you can't like overcorrect and get in front of the player because if that chip comes, it can knock you off the block. And then the chip doesn't come. It's like, oh shit. Like, oh no. Like, so, and this is against one of the best pass rushers in football. So it's kind of hard to adjust from there. So yeah, I thought overall Ryman was fine. It was like the other guys were all getting killed all game long. And I think the biggest indicator of the snap count thing though was when Bordellini got run over by Verse.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Verse is awesome. Like a fantastic football player. But like 90% of that play is because the snap count was timed up. If you could give like any linebacker or any defensive lineman in football that kind of running start at a center, and that center is going to be on his butt, and the center could be like Jason Kelsey or whoever we're talking about. Like it could be the best center in the league or one of the best centers ever, and they're going to get run over in that situation. So yeah, the Colts were just thrown for a loop for most of this game on offense, and it turned out a pretty ugly performance. So the fact that they still put up 20, almost 34 points in this game with the offensive process being so ugly, I think is kind of promising for them going forward.
Without a doubt. Zach, Thanks for your time as always, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, bud.
See, that is Zach Hicks. Check him out on X at Zach Hicks2. Check out his YouTube page. Check out his writing. And, of course, check out Locked On Colts as well. We got to take a break. When we come back, more on the Colts.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith. You follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 a.m. if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. The Colts. Tough loss Sunday, first loss of the season, and they should have lost that game. Like, they're just not as good as the Rams were. Like, just a really ugly, sloppy game from them, which I know is going to bother Shane Steichen, but that's just how it is. That's how the game went. Just way too many penalties. And I thought Zach said it really well there in that last segment. Like, Daniel Jones is a good option when things are on time and things are running on schedule and everything is happening according to plan. But as soon as things stop happening according to plan, then it becomes much tougher for him. And so in order for the Colts to win games going forward, they have to be able to keep him on time in terms of how he's throwing the football, but also on time in terms of, or on schedule, I guess is the term that I'm looking for. There were just too many games or too many moments last week where they weren't on time and they weren't on schedule. Penalties got in the way. You can't commit 11 penalties on the road against a team that's definitely more talented than you are and has a better quarterback than you do and probably has a better head coach than you do. Like, you can't get in your own way. And that was the biggest issue with the Colts in that game on Sunday. They just got in their own way too often. And as good as this Colts roster is, I would say it's a good roster. I don't think it's a great one. They have real weapons. That's nice. You know, they've got the best running back in football. That's nice. They've got a good offensive line. Didn't look great against the Rams, but it's just a lot of good. There's not a lot of great. And you need great to overcome 11 penalties on the road against Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and that pass rush. And the Colts just didn't have enough of it. So hopefully they can correct these issues going forward. With that being said, there were a couple of guys who I did think played great in that game, right? And they're young guys, which is really nice because these draft picks have got to start producing, especially the ones that were picked up, not within the last few drafts. Leatu Latu and Adetomiwa Adebawore were both awesome. I'll tell you why in 4 minutes.
sports in today's sports world. It's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Been talking Colts all day and a little bit of playoff baseball. And I'm so ready for the games to start, man. 1 o'clock. Tigers, Guardians. After all the drama of the Guardians trying to run down the Detroit Tigers, who got off to such a good start this year. I mean, just such a good start. For them to just completely collapse like that. It's one of the biggest collapses in the history of sports. One of the biggest collapses, definitely in the history of baseball. Like this is probably very short-sighted to me, but it's probably this or the Yankees in the 2004 ALCS, right? That's what it feels like, at least. It's obviously, Yankees the only team ever to give up a 3-0 lead in any of the three major sports. So it's probably that. But still, I feel like this is close. So that game is happening at 1, and it's going to be awesome. I love playoff baseball. Like regular season baseball, I'm not sitting on my couch and giving it 100% of my attention. Regular season baseball, I'm sitting on my couch. I'm having a conversation with my wife while the game goes on in the background. I'm reading a book while it's going on. Not postseason baseball. Postseason baseball, I am sitting there fully engaged, watching the crowd rise to their feet in every big moment, right? Listening to the constant cheering, watching guys who are so locked in, or who should be so locked into what they're doing. Watching those guys, just be so fully engaged. And I can't wait. Like playoff baseball is so freaking special. It's so special. And I can't wait for the games tonight. I can't wait. So 1 o'clock, we got the Tigers and Cleveland, a little AL or American League Central Division matchup. And then 3 o'clock, we got my Cubbies. I had to wear my Cubs hoodie today because there's no better day to wear it than, later in October, the day after the Cubs win the World Series this year, because that's going to happen. Can't wait for that one. Yankees, Red Sox tonight. I mean, if you sat down and you said, hey, Major League Baseball, if you could hand pick these matchups, how would you do it? And they'd be like, I don't know. Yankees, Red Sox would have to be one. And it's like, check. They have that. We'd probably want the Cubs involved with somebody. Check. You got that. You got them involved with a very interesting San Diego Padres team that just has so much talent. Like there's so much talent on this Padres roster. Just really, really impressive watching this, like I said, just the amount of talent on this team. Fernando Tatis Jr. playing right field. Manny Machado at third base. J.C. Cronenworth playing second base. Love Cronenworth. Such a good player. Xander Bogaerts is playing shortstop. They've got this first baseman. Oh, yeah. Luis Perez, a guy who, he's just a really good contact hitter. He's playing first base. They got Jose Iglesias. There's just so many good players on this Padres. Jason Hayward is playing for the Padres. Like just a lot of talent, a lot of big time players playing against the Cubs. I think that's exactly what you want if you're Major League Baseball. Okay, and then the Tigers and the Guardians thing is interesting just because of the collapse that we just saw the Tigers have. I mean, just truly, truly fascinating stuff. Like if you're the Tigers, you went from being the 3 seed, like that's what they were going to be, to now you're the 6 seed. Just like I said, incredible stuff. Yeah, and then of course you have the Dodgers, and look, it's Ohtani, it's Mookie Betts, it's Freddie Freeman. It's just a ton of really good players on that team, and they're playing against a Reds team that I find to be interesting. I am so excited to watch Hunter Green pitch tonight. Like, he's just electric when he's on the bump. It's like, hey, you mean that you, like, if you ask Major League Baseball, they're like, yeah, like, we'd love to have a young up and coming pitcher who throws 100. Would love to have him on the bump against the Dodgers in the first game of the wild card series. One of the most explosive and just fun players in baseball in Ellie De La Cruz, who, by the way, played in all 162 games this year. Freaking love him for that. That's awesome. Okay. 22 homers, 31 doubles. What's his OPS? It's got to be decently high, I would think. Yeah. His OPS only 777. Not very great. Actually, no. All things considered, given how many games he played, that's actually really, really impressive. Gavin Lux is on this team, like another young player who previously played for the Dodgers. Like there's just so many interesting matchups in this wild card, round of the Major League Baseball playoffs. It starts here in an hour. Like I said, can't wait. It's going to be just awesome. There's nothing quite like postseason baseball. Just the randomness of baseball, the old cliche saying how baseball is different than every other sport because, like, you have to get 27 outs, you have to throw the ball over the plate, you have to give the other team a chance. Whereas in other sports, like, you can just bleed the clock or whatever. It is so true, and we get to see it for the next month, and it's such a special thing. Like watching playoff baseball games, it just feels different. And I don't know what it is about it, but it just feels different than every other sport. Very excited that both the Cubs and the Reds made the playoffs. That means I get to talk about it a little bit more than I normally would. So that's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into the show, no matter how you did. YouTube, Indie Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe, download that Indie Sports Ticket app wherever you download your apps. And if you want more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page as well. Thank you again. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way starting at noon.